Welcome to Dr. Mensch, the radio show that takes a real, compassionate look at mental health from A to Z. Join child and adolescent psychiatrist Dr. Gil Lichtshein. Each week as we explore topics that matter: autism, ADHD, anxiety, depression, OCD, schizophrenia, behavioral challenges, neurodevelopmental disorders, and more. No stigma, no judgment. Just honest conversations, new therapies, breakthrough treatments, and real solutions for real people. Mental health is not a weakness. It's a treatable medical condition, and help is available. Join the conversation now by calling the studio at 888-994-4995, Studio A. This is Dr. Mensch, where hope and healing begin.
Good afternoon. This is Dr. Gil Lichtshein, aka Dr. Mensch, reporting from Boca Raton, Florida, for another episode of my show. It's a beautiful Monday afternoon in late March. Spring has started. My office is located. I'm a child and adolescent adult, board certified child, adolescent, adult psychiatrist. My office is in Boca Raton at 7100 West Camino Real, Suite 404 in Boca Raton, and my phone number is 561-300-4052. A little side note, I was, who sent this to me? My best friend's mom sent me this kind of this AI video from Frank Sinatra, New York, New York, but it was a parody on Zoran Mandami. I don't know the name of it, but if you Google like New York parody Zoran Mandami with Frank Sinatra, and so there was one scene, it's talking about how, Mandami's bringing down New York, but there was one scene about the wealthy tax base leaving town, and it was showing how they're getting on a jet plane, and what did Frank Sinatra say? They're coming to Boca Raton, and there's a picture of a Jewish guy sitting in a swimming pool drinking some, I don't know, martini, but it was just funny. These last two episodes that I had were talking about, I had 2 weeks ago, my patient Andrew came on the show to talk about his experience with ketamine, and then last week we kind of expounded a little further and talked about TMS, two alternative or treatments for patients with severe depression. Today, I'm going to change course. I'm not going to talk about ketamine or TMS or Prozac or any specific psychiatric disorders. I'm actually, this is March 23rd, and Wednesday, it's I think the earliest in history. It's opening day in baseball, baseball is called America's pastime, and of all the four major sports in this country, maybe outside of football training camp, Major League Baseball spring training is like, makes big news. And spring training games are held in throughout Florida and Arizona. And I went to a Marlins Mets spring training game in Jupiter a couple weeks ago. There were about 6,000 people at Roger Dean Stadium. You don't see that at preseason NBA or preseason NHL or even the preseason training camps. And when you go to a preseason football game, and I've gone to a few preseason Dolphin games, it just doesn't feel, you just don't kind of feel the energy. But when I was at the Marlins Mets preseason game, you're sitting like literally like feet away from I was by the Mets dugout. I'm a Mets fan, so sitting by the Mets dugout, you could actually like talk to the players. You hear the ball thrown, you hear the bat hit the ball. I mean, you can hear everything. There's just nothing like it. And opening day in baseball kind of is a big thing. I don't think that opening day in hockey or basketball really gets the same publicity that baseball does. Maybe NFL, but what I like about opening day in baseball, or at least even when pitchers and catchers report in baseball in middle of February, it's kind of like, wow, it's baseball season, it's a new beginning. even the teams that really suck, come into spring training thinking, hey, this is going to be a new year, a lot of optimism, and the start of a new season. Like whatever failures you had last year, kind of like you put it aside. It's a brand new season, brand new outlook. Everything's positive. Even when teams suffer injuries, which sometimes happen in spring training, players get injured. That hey, it's spring training. You got all these prospects that you're working out, and see if maybe these prospects can make the big league team or come to the show. And there's just a lot of excitement, positivity, optimism, and so and it kind of corresponds with also. I mean, this past Friday, March 20th, was spring, so kind of like the gloom and doom of winter is behind us, and now, well, maybe not much in Florida. You don't really experience, feel it because you're going from maybe warm to warmer. It's not like these past 3 months in Florida has been cold, gloomy, and snowy. But let's say you're in Washington, D.C. or New York, or I don't know where else it's cold, Chicago or Boston, places like that. You kind of, okay, the gloom and doom of winter is behind us. We now, have something to look forward to spring, where it's only getting warmer, the days are getting longer. The leaves in the trees are going to start blooming. The Cherry Blossom Festival, I believe, is starting in D.C. If not now, it's probably in the next few days. But I remember when I lived in Baltimore for 5 years, the Cherry Blossom Festival was huge. So it was like a way of looking like, hey, weather's getting warmer. Hopefully no more snow, no more freezing temperatures. Took the short drive down to DC and get to see these beautiful Japanese cherry blossoms start blooming at the end of March, kind of signifying, like a rebirth, something to look forward to. And so kind of look at, baseball in that same way. It's a reason why baseball is America's pastime. And, spring training, football, NFL training camps in the heat of the summer. It's like when the weather is at its hottest, scorching heat and humidity. Baseball, it's mid-February. They're in Arizona. They're in Central and South Florida, where the weather, it's not hot, it's not humid, it's mild. It's like just the sun's out. It's kind of things to look forward to. And then baseball begins now baseball is beginning early and earlier. When I was growing up, I remember opening day being like the second week of April, around April 10th. Now, baseball season is creeping up earlier. It's because of expanded playoffs, revenue, money. So this year, March 25th, Yankees and I believe the Giants are playing, and then March 26th is the rest of Major League Baseball's opening. That's like the earliest, I think, in Major League history. So it's really, baseball is really like the spring sport. You think of hockey is the winter sport, football a winter sport, basketball fall and winter, but baseball is the one sport we think spring and summer. Again, even though the football season begins in September, September is already kind of like the summer's kind of coming to an end. The days are getting shorter, and before you know it, you're in Green Bay or Minnesota or where else cold? Green Bay, Minnesota. Before you know it, or Cleveland. Before you know it, it's 30 degrees because it's October. So baseball is like the spring and summer sport, and to me, it kind of like brings like hope, positivity, something to look forward to. Everybody goes into spring training, like I said, with kind of an open mind, saying, "Hey, what happened last year happened last year. It's done with. It's behind us. We have something to look forward to." Even with the teams that really, in all reality, kind of are going to suck anyways. But here, give an example: the Colorado Rockies. last year they missed by 2 games, tying the Chicago White Sox for most losses in the modern era. They were 43 wins, 119 losses. So they, I believe, had the second worst ever season record-wise in National League history, at least in the modern era since 1900. And but they had the ignominious record holder of the worst run differential, meaning the difference between how many runs the team scored and how many runs the team gave up. I think they had a run differential like minus 435 or something, which blew the record like big time, like by 70 or 80 runs. Like it wasn't even close. I mean, they sucked. Sorry, but I'm just being brutally honest. They were just a brutal team. And quite honestly, expectations of this year that they're not gonna be a playoff team. No one's looking at them as being a World Series contender. But I can imagine that the Colorado Rockies manager, who I don't even know who it is, I think they fired their old manager and hired a new one. I don't even know who it is, and their general manager and vice president or president of baseball operations. I mean, they're going to spring training. I can't imagine they're automatically thinking, oh, we suck and we're going to lose 125 games. I mean, they made some deals, made some trades. They're going to spring training with at least a positive attitude of, we're going to be better than we were last year. Last year was last year. We stank. We broke the record for the largest run differential and hoping we'll win more than 43 games. They probably will. I mean, you can't really get any worse than they did. But they go into spring training with an attitude of, hey, we're only going to get better, and they, work out their whatever prospects they have, and maybe some, new finds that they get either through free agency or they invite to training camp, and you never know what could happen. That's, I don't see that, and I don't get that kind of vibe from any other sport. Again, hockey, basketball, football. Again, probably the time of the year that you have basketball camp and hockey camp, it's usually in like mid to late September. Football, it's in the heat of the summer. Most football training camps start in mid to late July. And so you're just looking forward to going out and running around in 110-degree heat. But, something about spring training and opening day and the first few weeks of baseball that just convey a message of hope, something to look forward to, being positive even though the odds might be stacked against you. And I also find baseball players same time also kind of the athletes who seem to be the most approachable. When I went to the spring training game a couple weeks ago, Mets and Marlins at the Marlins Stadium in Jupiter, I knew that Juan Soto wasn't going to be there because he was with the Dominican team for the World Baseball Classic. I knew that Bo Bichette wasn't going to be there and Nolan McLean, but I got to just say hello to some, no-name Mets and saw, Carlos Mendoza, the manager, and was talking to him, and they were just very engaging, and there's just something about that just just feels good. And I think that's the one sport that you just go to spring training, and it just kind of there's this aura of positivity that just kind of is exuded at the game. And I think maybe a take-home message is, again, it's now spring, new season. The days are getting longer. The weather's warming up, even in Florida, where no more cold. I guess for us, it'll be no more cold fronts, where we were not going to likely see any more temperatures at night in the 50s. But maybe that's not something to look forward to as a Floridian. Okay, it's only going to get hotter, but still, okay, no more real cool nights. Days are mild. The sun's out. It just feels good. And if you're certainly, up north, I mean, you still might get rain and stuff, but I mean, I lived in New York for 5 years before moving here, and once March and April hits, I can't ever remember temperatures being in the teens or single digits. Yeah, there were nights where it got down to the 30s, and yeah, there may be still some possibility of snow here and there in late March, even early April, but the trend is longer days. It doesn't get dark at 4:30 anymore. The days are longer. The weather is getting warmer. The leaves are coming in the trees. You can now spend outside more, be outside more. I remember when I living on the Upper West Side, lived right next to Central Park. Dead of winter, it's cold. It's 12 inches of snow on the ground. I don't want to go to Central Park, but it's March, it's April, it's spring. Snow is melted. It's not 25 degrees anymore. Maybe it's 50 or 60 degrees. Good weather to be outside and just take in the fresh air and not be cooped up at home. So, this is where kind of can look at baseball as a way of just kind of feeling better and looking at things like, okay, it's a new beginning. What's happened before is in the past. We can learn from, again, just like a team that had a bad season last year. Hey, like, I'm a diehard New York Mets fan. And last year, I remember, I believe it was late June, we had the best record in baseball. Like, yes, we have Juan Soto, Pete Alonso, got a good pitching staff. We're going to the playoffs. And after that, I think they were 45-24. And the rest of the year, they went 38-50. Like, they collapsed and wound up missing the playoffs. It was the frickin' Marlins, who always are a pest on the Mets side, that eliminated the Mets on the last weekend of the season. Now, that was a highly disappointing year, and it turned out that the Steve Cohen and David Stearns decided to clean up shop, and we traded Pete Alonso, who's like the all-time Mets home run leader and the polar bear beloved. We traded Jeff McNeil, and we made some major trades, got in some new players, and with the hope of, okay, what happened last year, and it's not going to affect how we get off this year. That this year's a new season, we have new players, new attitude, and we also learned from, hopefully they learned from their collapse of last year, and hopefully are not able to repeat the same behaviors. On that note, we're going to take a brief commercial, and we'll be right back.
What happens when the mind of a healer crosses over into the darkness of the human soul? From authors David Icovetti, Dr. Gil Lichtshein, and Yolanda DeLuca comes a chilling psychological thriller, Dr. Mensch, A Prescription for Evil. This gripping novel follows a respected Boca Raton psychiatrist who secretly descends into madness, transforming into a modern-day king of the underworld. Inspired by true events and Dr. Gil's childhood connection to a mob family, this story blurs the line between sanity and evil, genius and destruction. Unforgettable, disturbing, impossible to put down. Get your copy today on Amazon.com. Dr. Mensch, A Prescription for Evil, a 2020 psychological crime thriller. You're listening to Dr. Mensch with child and adolescent psychiatrist Dr. Gil Lichtshein. For a copy of his powerful new book, Dr. Mensch's Prescription for Evil, visit Amazon.com. For more information or to schedule a consultation, contact Dr. Gil directly at 561-300-4052 or visit docgil.com. Now, let's get back to the show.
Welcome back, everyone, for the final few minutes of today's episode, talking about baseball and spring training and a new season, new outlook, kind of just have a new vision. And I was talking about my beloved New York Mets. I guess kind of being a New York's sports fan, you kind of torture yourself. We have I'm a Ranger fan. They're not going in the Stanley. They have no chance of the Stanley Cup. They're not even going to the playoffs. The New York Jets, probably the most dysfunctional, maybe you can argue the worst team in football. I mean, a travesty, for lack of a better word. They haven't been in the playoffs in, I believe, 15 years. I think they have the longest streak in the NFL currently of not making the playoffs. We have the only good thing right now going for New York sports is the Knicks, and I'm hoping that, unlike last year, they'll get to the NBA Finals. We'll wait and see. But baseball, and this could be a very good year for New York baseball. The Yankees, I don't hate the Yankees, but I don't care for them. But I'll root for them if they're in the World Series. Every year the Yankees expectations, but I think despite the Mets' failures from last year and a lot of the changes in their roster, there's a lot of prognostications that say the Mets could win the NL East, which may be that along with the AL East, may be the most competitive division in baseball. I personally don't know if they could beat this behemoth team called them LA Dodgers, but in baseball anything can happen. And so it's always, and that's the other good thing about baseball. And then maybe unlike basketball and football, maybe the only other sport where you can get like the Cinderella team is hockey, where a team can have let's say an average season, a pedestrian season, and then they make it to the playoffs and they get hot. They ride a hot pitcher or a hot batter and can make it to the World Series. I mean, a couple of years ago, you had the Arizona Diamondbacks, who I think may have won like 86 or 87 games. I think it was 2023, and they got hot in the playoffs and made it to the World Series. The year later, my New York Mets, floundering in the first half. Carlos Mendoza, first-year manager, they get hot in the second half, make it as a wild card team. I remember Pete Alonso hitting a two-run homer, a series-winning homer against current Mets closer Devin Williams. They get to the NL Championship Series. They hit a juggernaut against the Dodgers, who wound up beating the Yankees in the World Series, but they took the Dodgers to 6 games. So in baseball, the other thing about it is that sometimes even when least expected, surprises happen, and that never give up. Even when you're down by 5 runs in the bottom of the 9th, teams most of the time are fighting till the very end. And you always see like a player pops up, is at bat and hits a pop up. You still run because you never know. The fielder might trip over something or misjudge the ball, and it could drop, and you can get on base. And plenty of times where a ground ball and you just don't, and you still run to first. There's been plenty of times where you see players kind of just not run, and their managers will chew them out. Sometimes they'll even bench them or put them out of the lineup, saying, you hustle, you don't give up. It might be a sure out, but you still run, you still try to run to first base because, you never give up. You push yourself. Even when things seem like most against you, you never know. So sometimes situations could just change just like that, and all of a sudden, a sure pop-up, the fielder misjudges it, drops the ball, and all of a sudden, you drive in a run or you get on base and you wind up scoring the winning run, and you never know. Could win a playoff game or win the World Series. So, that's why in some ways kind of baseball could be like a way of an example of representing life. The highs, the lows, the never give up attitude, always try your hardest. Now again, most of us are not, super, athletes that have the, God-given talents that they do, or make the $500 million, or Juan Soto, who makes $60 million a year. Very few of us are that fortunate, but nonetheless, these players are human just like we are. And despite, they might be superstars or celebrities, they'll get reamed out by their managers that they're not putting in 110% effort, or seem lazy, or don't try, or don't put in their maximal effort, because, they set an example to their teammates, to their fans, but also, to themselves. Like, you always try no matter what. Even though you hit a comebacker to the pitcher, you still run to first base. Because, sometimes a pitcher might overthrow, or Maybe the pitcher is like, this is a sure out. Sometimes the pitcher gets a little overconfident and throws wildly, and you never know. All of a sudden, you're now on second base because of a two-base error. So the point is, you never give up. You keep running. You keep trying. And if you don't, even the stars are going to get benched. Doesn't matter. I think last summer, I think it was an incident with Bryce Harper. He makes like $50 million for the Philadelphia Phillies. Their star first baseman. I think there was one incident where he didn't run out a ground ball, and his manager benched him, chewed him out and benched him, saying, you run. You don't just like sit there and stare at the ball or stare at the bat. You run. And so in that way, I look at baseball, spring training, the start of the season. It's kind of like a symbol of of a new beginning and looking at things positively, not giving up and trying your best. And on that note, like I said, opening days on Wednesday, Yankees, Giants. Full slate of baseball starts on Thursday, and we're going to have baseball from March 25th till the end of September for 162 games. We just had a great World Baseball Classic tournament in which Venezuela beat the United States in the final. But, I went to on a side note, in closing, I went to the Israel-Venezuela game and at Marlins Stadium, and it was amazing. And the just excitement and how everybody was so into it, that's how we should, really enjoy life too. And on that note, this is Dr. Gil Lichtshein, a.k.a. Dr. Mensch, signing off from sunny Boca Raton, Florida on a beautiful Monday afternoon. Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us for Dr. Mensch with Dr. Gil Lichtshein, helping you navigate the world of mental health with clarity and care. If you or someone you love needs support, you're not alone. Treatment works and recovery is possible. To schedule a consultation or discuss non-medication therapies, personalized treatment plans, or psychiatric care, contact Dr. Gil directly at 561-300-4052 or visit docgil.com. You can catch us each week on South Florida Oldies Radio and streaming across all social platforms. Until next time.